Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 202. I was white here and I kicked off with knight f3, playing the Reti opening. Here, a little sound. And my opponent responded with d6, not the most common reply here. I guess knight f6 is what I usually play, just kind of waiting and seeing what white is going to do with his pawns. Or d5 immediately grabbing control of the center, but d6. It's not a bad move necessarily. So I continue with my Reti setup. It looks like the book move here would be d4. And so we're in this kind of obscure sideline here. After c4, g6, bishop g2, bishop g7. These are all normal developing moves for this kind of setup. Castles. And yeah, the engine keeps wanting both of us to play d4. No, me mainly. Yeah, it keeps wanting me to play d4 in the opening book also. But this is an okay setup. It keeps some slight edge for white. And what's funny is that if black had castled here, we would get back into some sort of mainline King's Indian position. And in fact, that's what happens here. He castles on this move, and I play knight c3. And actually, yeah, we're in kind of a mainline position once again. So this is a fianchetto King's Indian. And I've seen Chess Explained play this kind of setup with black. And the idea is these pawns here are pretty flexible. You can decide later to push ahead with e5 or d5, depending on circumstances. So looks like the move for black here would be queen a5. That's an interesting idea. I play the move... he plays the move knight bd7, and I play e4. And after e5, you see, yeah, once again we've gotten into kind of a mainline King's Indian setup. So I play bishop e3 here, which is not an accurate move actually. I was thinking the knight harassing the bishop wasn't that great, but it turns out to be okay for black. So it looks like h3 is the way to play this as white. It just stops the knight from coming into g4 and harassing the bishop. The bishop wants to go to the square e3 so it can take back on d4. So I play bishop e3 right away, and then he harasses it with a knight, and so the bishop is just not going to be able to stay there. And so we're pretty much after f6. Looks like queen b6 is an interesting move here. I guess I should mention this. The queen comes to b6. It's attacking this pawn on b2, and it's also attacking the center pawn here, which is currently already under attack from the bishop and the pawn, and it's defended by the knight and the queen. So I think that might be a little bit tricky to deal with, but it looks like after queen b6 I can play h3, and then he has to retreat the knight, and then I can defend the b pawn, I guess, or exchange. Okay. So my opponent plays f6, and we're pretty much out of the book at this point. So let's just look at the engine. And, I retreat my bishop, and we've got pretty much an equal game here, and it stays that way for a while. Maybe this knight move gives me some hope here. It says knight to c5 is a stronger move for black. It's an interesting idea, but putting pressure on this e-pawn. And it also eyes this hole here on d3, which is kind of interesting that there's this, because I've advanced my pawns, there's this hole in the middle of my camp. And he eventually sinks a knight into that square. But first I chase his knight away, and then yeah, the engine is not impressed with my queen maneuver there. It thinks I should play b3 or queen e2, just defending this pawn, which the c-pawn is hanging. But I was wanting to chase his knight around, so that's why I lined the queen and the bishop up like that, and the knight does have to move. He moves it, and then now I defend my pawn, and once again we've got about an equal position. And here's a place where he just can drop his knight right into d3. It's kind of annoying. But I don't think it's particularly stable there, so maybe it's not the best move for white. Okay, but there are other moves have about the same score, so it's not that bad a move. I mean, he gets this nice square on b4 and kicks my queen around some more. I'm not sure why I went back to b1. Maybe I was trying to hold on to this pawn on e4. So, but I wanted to kick the knight first. and then get my rook out of the line of this bishop so that I can move my knight and defend my e4 pawn. So far so good. Here was my mistake. I should have just taken with the knight here, and that's kind of my first impulse. But I didn't really like, here, let's take a look at this. Didn't really like this continuation because I saw there was a pin here. But it just turns out there's no great way for black to exploit this pin. So I can play g4 immediately and kick the bishop. That's one idea. Or bishop f4. Just develop my bishop and attack his d-pawn and just ignore the pin. Since he can't attack this knight with a pawn, and I have adequate defense, I have another knight and a rook that I can use to defend it. Looks like this position is okay for me. So what I played, to avoid that pin, I played bishop takes e4, but this just gives up the pawn on h3. I just had completely overlooked the fact that was hanging here. And so he takes it. And so now he has the edge. And actually this is a little bit awkward for me because the knight coming into here is a check. And the only piece I have to defend against that is my bishop. And my bishop is in danger of getting chased away. For example, if I do a nothing move, rook to d1 is a computer suggestion other than f4, bishop f4. Rook to d1, and then he could play this move, bishop to f5, and threaten knight f3 check. Bishop f4, knight f3 check. Oh, okay, well I got my rook away from the fork, but this is still seems kind of awkward. So that's the thing I was worried about, because this bishop can establish a pin on my bishop, so I can't take his knight back anymore once it lands on f3, and that would be kind of an uncomfortable position for me. So yeah, the idea of rook d1 was just getting away from that fork. So that would have been another way to handle it. But I played the move, actually the engine's top choice here, play the move f4. You force the knight to move while you're still guarding this square and before black has had a chance to play bishop f5. And so the knight just needs to retreat. He might have been calculating one of those lines where my bishop wasn't here or was pinned already, because he went ahead and played the move knight f3 almost immediately. So this drops a piece, and I am pretty much better the rest of the game. I don't let him back in the game. I just trade off his pieces when I get the chance. He gets some activity here, so I just have to be careful I don't get mated. Yeah, my pieces are somewhat awkwardly positioned, but when you're a whole piece up, you have some leeway in terms of your maneuvering, and he does let me trade off these pieces. So, and I'm using my extra piece to try and drive his pieces away before they can organize themselves and get an attack going. Basically, it's the strategy here. So I trade off when I can, and I threw in that check, which later turns out to be very useful. The one idea I had with this check was just to isolate these pawns so that I can round them up before they become a hazard. Sometimes this guy is a passed pawn and could become a hazard if the material gets reduced enough and if black finds a nice way to support it. So I want to try and eliminate that, but also to make his king a bit uncomfortable, chase it on to a different diagonal. So the king ran to the corner. See, was it better to go the other way? No, king h8 is the way to go. It's just a little more exposed out here. So, and then I start putting pressure on the d-pawn here, which also, it's important to note, is on a diagonal with the queen, so the king. So whenever I grab that pawn, I grab it with check, and even threatening checkmate. This is a famous diagonal checkmating pattern, so one you should all know about. So if I can just get on this diagonal, it's game over. So he defends the diagonal, and I bring my rook back into the game. I was a little bit worried about, in this position, I was a little bit worried about him playing rook to rook to d8 and then coming into d7. But it takes two moves, and my queen takes d4 here is just quicker. So he has to deal with that first, and that gives me time to bring my rook over. So now he plays rook e8. Ah, yeah, e8. I was saying d8. Rook e8, threatening to go to this square, which would be very good for him. But I can now block it with my rook. He plays a check. I run away from it. He trades rooks, and I'm maintaining this threat on d4 all this time, and also attacked d6 with my bishop. So he moved his queen here to defend both pawns, but really that was the only thing he had. But now his queen is overloaded. Here, let's back up. Does the engine have any suggestion? The engine says you just ignore it and play h5, which would actually give the king an escape route. So that would probably be a good idea. I'm going to take here and then play my bishop here, but after h5 he can move his queen away and move his king to h7 and live to fight. Okay, so he played queen f6 trying to protect his pawns, but the queen is overloaded. The queen can't actually take the bishop here because of this check, which he played. And then he resigned here, but you can see it's a mate in 2 after he takes the bishop. So it's a mate in 15 even if he doesn't take the bishop, because this threat of the bishop coming here is very strong as well. So yeah, just watch out for those diagonal mates. That's a nice pattern to remember. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and leave any comments you have in the section below. I will see you again soon. Bye.